Hello, today I'm in Prague. I have special guest. He is Dr. Kovar. He is one of the leading experts on European issues. Today I'm going to ask some questions about the current situation in Europe and also the future of Europe, even particularly after Brexit, Ukrainian-Russian crisis, and also the relations of Czech Republic with the neighbor countries, even within the Visegrad Group countries. Before starting our talk, I would like us and let me to introduce himself briefly.
Dr. Kovar has studied in different universities, including University of Twente, the College of Public Administration and International Relations, since 2004. He has defended his PhD dissertation on integrated second-order election model in the Central and Eastern European countries at the Metropolitan University Prague in International Relations and European Studies. The European integration, the institutional framework, elections, political parties, the media and political communication in the internal security in the EU are his main research areas. His dozens of research have been published in scholar journals. Dr. Kovar has contributed to several research projects in cooperation with the Czech government. His valuable opinions have been appeared in the local and international media. Dr. Kovar has been teaching in different universities in Prague since 2010. Currently, he is working for Institute of International Relations Prague as a senior researcher. First question, as a member of the institute, could you outline the main change which the center has done, like since a long time in the meaning? I know this institute established in 1957.
Yes.
So, and since that time, what has changed, like in the meaning of the international relations in the Czech Republic, like in the public opinion?
All right. Well, the institute is now celebrating basically 60 years.
Yeah.
And when it comes to international politics and international relations, a lot has changed. You know that until late 80s, the institute was operating within, well, a little bit different, let's say, non-democratic regime, and it certainly had some impact on the operation of the institute, even though it has always enjoyed, I would say, a high level of independence from politics. But you know, in last 2.5 decades, the role of institute has within the Czech Republic and Czech international and foreign politics and policies has changed a lot from being purely like a research institution to today to combine research institution and a think tank at the same time. So we're basically now talking to two different audiences. One is the research community, or maybe even three audiences. One is the research community. The second one is, you know, the community of politicians at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in particular, and the third one is the wider public.
Like beneficiaries, like parties in this.
Yes, but also a wider public trying to mainstream political issues through the media, through popularization of, you know, scientific work among ordinary citizens and among the wider publics.
Thank you very much. Nice to hear your achievements. And I would like to know your opinion, the current situation in EU, for example. What are the main unexpected issues, like recently Europeans experience nowadays, like unexpected, like in last years or last decades?
Well, obviously, you see, there has been a number of crises over last decade, starting mostly with the economic and financial crisis in the Eurozone, then going through the migration crisis, now also facing the issue of Brexit.
Yeah.
But I would say that the most important change over the last 2 decades, or since the Czech Republic got to the EU in 2004, was the most important challenge is really that the EU is somehow getting farther away from the citizen. So there is a change in terms of public opinion towards the EU, and it's probably the most important challenge for the EU to be able to regain the support of citizens. And this applies also to the Czech Republic, because, you know, during the 90s, even though there was Euroscepticism in the Czech Republic ever since the 1990s, the support for European integration and the European Union was much higher than in 2003, 2004, than today. For example, in the referendum, more than 75% voted of the voters voted for joining the EU. Today, if you look at the data,
and they are happy, yeah.
Yeah, and they are happy. But today, at least they were happy. But today, when you look at the data, the support for the EU in the Czech Republic is decreasing. So there is a number of crises. This is important, but probably the most important crisis related to support of citizens, of publics.
Thank you very much. My next question, as you mentioned also in your opinion, after Brexit, do you see any other member countries which is motivated to think about leave as the UK did recently?
Well, I believe that after Brexit you can clearly observe this trend in a number of countries. Some
discussions.
Political discussion, public discussions. Some of the political parties are advocating exiting the European Union for some other EU member states. I believe that these voices have been obviously supported by the British referendum.
And motivated.
Maybe not necessarily motivated. The motivation was probably there even before the Brexit referendum, but they were definitely supported or strengthened.
Something should change.
And you can observe this very easily in, let's say, France, where Marine Le Pen is advocating, having a referendum on Eurozone membership or even potentially European Union membership. But these voices also have appeared in the Netherlands. These voices also appeared in Slovakia. Some of the politicians have advocated this. Yes, you have these voices also in Denmark, but also the Five Star Movement in Italy is advocating a referendum on the membership in the Eurozone. And there was also a voice by there was also this issue has been also voiced in the Czech Republic by Czech president, who didn't advocate leaving the EU, but he said that the people should have the opportunity to express in the referendum their opinion about being members of the European Union as well as NATO. So you see, after Brexit, these voices has gotten some significance across a number of European Union countries.
Just to share their concerns about the current, as a people, as you mentioned, the voice of the people.
Well, the logic very often goes is that these politicians who advocate it, to a certain extent, they share the position of criticizing the political mainstream and saying, well, this is what political mainstream does in the EU. You see, where did they get us?
Let's change something.
We got crisis here, crisis there. We need to change this. And these political elites, they don't listen to you, to ordinary people. So we are here, we will listen to you, and we will do what you want, and we will offer you to exit the EU because it will be better for our country. And now you can even hear slogans such as make some country great again in Europe, which means leaving the European Union because we will be better alone without the European Union. So I would say this is interlinked to disappointment with political mainstream and this, let's say, slightly populist approach of fringe parties who are basically saying, well, we will listen to what you normal people, ordinary citizens want to have here in Europe, want us to do.
Thank you very much. I would like also to summarize some questions. I just saw one information from news. Recently, around 70 Czech the people who are living in UK from the 1940 something have asked for the Czech citizenship after Brexit talks, according to the official statement by the Czech embassy in London. So the questions about this, the fact, or have you surprised from this, and do you expect any huge movement of the Czech people from UK back to home?
Well, I'm not surprised. Obviously, this is quite pragmatic and practical issue. Even after the referendum, in Ireland, the number of British citizens asking for Irish citizenship has risen dramatically since the referendum, because they have some roots in Ireland, so they can ask for Irish citizenship. The logic is very simple, because, well, as the UK will be exiting the European Union, British citizens will lose
some advantages,
the advantages and some of the rights that go hand in hand with the membership in the European Union, such as free trade, for example.
Free movement. Yeah.
So if you will have an Irish or even Czech or any other EU member state's passport, you will still be entitled to enjoy rights that go, as I said, hand in hand with the membership of the European Union. So I don't expect any huge movement towards the Czech Republic.
Because some clever people will decide before this.
And I don't even believe that these people will leave the UK in the first place. Yeah. They will stay in the UK, but they will have another citizenship.
Yeah,
they will have,
to guarantee them.
Yes, they will have another passport, EU passport, that will entitle them to travel freely within Schengen and to work within European Union member states.
That's perfect.
Since UK is basically scheduled to leave the single market.
Yeah.
So if you will have a passport of an EU member state, you will still be able to enjoy the free movement of labor right.
Yeah.
So you will be able to seek and take up a job in other EU member states, and that's crucial for these people.
That's the more in discussion topic, and in that case, do you satisfy the level of protection of rights of the Czech citizens in UK since the Brexit negotiations started? How the governments can prevent any hate crimes in the UK against the foreigners? We saw some crimes happened in London, or I'm not sure which cities.
Yeah, well, in different cities actually, but obviously this is the problem. This is connected to the referendum per se, because if you have referendum, it always colors or paints the reality in black and white.
Yeah.
Either or. It's a question yes or no.
Yeah.
So it's either or. Now, one of the major aspects of the referendum was migration, but not from Middle East or from Bangladesh or from Southeast Asia or wherever. It was about intra-EU immigration.
Within the EU,
So Poles
from Eastern Europe to
Poles and Romanians and Bulgarians and some other citizens of some other usually Central and Eastern European countries are going to the United Kingdom. And now the referendum, as it was about immigration, the campaign was about immigration, and the outcome was, well, we will leave the European Union. Now, obviously, there is a certain group of people who want to say to the foreigners explicitly, you're not welcome, go away. And this actually led to this, incidents, which are very unfortunate, and the government should try to, in the UK, calm down the situation. But obviously, it's not that easy to calm down the situation. You can only use the ordinary law enforcement authorities, such as, Metropolitan Police and police in general. But these incidents are very common. I have let's say, it is a family friend. So it's basically my father's friend. He worked as a correspondent of a Czech.
You are talking about businessman.
No. He worked as a correspondent of the Czech radio in the United Kingdom since 1960s, since late 1960s, when he emigrated to the United Kingdom. So his family is basically living in the United Kingdom and always been working also for BBC, and for Czech radio or for Czech television. He's living there since late 1960s, so this is 70s, 80s, 90s, the first decade of the new millennium, and the next 70, it's almost 5 decades. They have a daughter, just a bit older than me. She studied at Oxford, I believe, right now, and she's normally British because she was born in there. So they mean normal British citizens practically. And now after the referendum, one of their neighbors they had an incident in front of their house because the neighbors started spitting on them, and literally spitting on them and saying, leave, go away back to Czechoslovakia. So, and these are, but Czechoslovakia, that's the same, they came from Czechoslovakia back then. So the logic is, these are people living there almost for 5 decades, been very well integrated in the society, working at a very good position. And still now after the referendum, the neighbors that are used to them for ages are spitting
to know each other better.
And they spit on them because they have this frustration against foreigners.
It's aggression. I don't know. It's maybe psychological aspect.
It's definitely psychological to a certain extent.
Let's back to again the referendum. The getting inspiration from one of the recent research, European Parliament election campaign, which you had been done by you and your colleagues in news media in Czech and Slovakia. Do you believe that news media plays an important role in the formulation of the people or public opinion? For example, after Brexit, I had also some meeting with my friends. Some people was like, how to say, feeling sorry. Oh, they had like they did something wrong, unintentional, or like listened something, or I don't know.
Well, I would definitely say that media play a role. You got a lot of research showing that media can, first of all, influence what is on the agenda. Yeah. So what are the topics that are discussed in publics? But secondly, they are also, by framing these topics in a certain way, they're also able to influence what people think. And you can very much see it if you look back to the United Kingdom and the referendum. You have a bunch of, especially tabloid media, who are informing about the EU in a way that is quite often not factual. Quite often it's how Donald Trump would say alternative fact. Quite often it's not true at all. However, people who don't have common contact with the EU and who are not experts, and the EU is distant, and it's not that easy. You will not become an expert on the EU overnight. So
like
so your information that you get
from one source, let's say,
usually is from the media.
Media.
So if you read the media, if you watch TV news, and they're saying something about the EU which is not even right, you believe it to a certain extent.
Gossips like it.
Yes. So and quite often in the media, it all very often they stress this this type of blame game that also politicians play. So when there is something coming from Brussels and we don't like it, it's the fault of Brussels, not fault of our and other politicians who adopted it, but Brussels. If there is something that we like coming from Brussels, it's not credited to Brussels at all. It's we pushed it there, so without Brussels we would have it anyway. And this also has certain influence on the people, because if you very often refer negatively about the EU, well, they are imposing some rules on us, even though they can't impose without the member states. Then people believe that they are imposing and they are doing something wrong. And at the same time, when something good comes from Brussels through national politicians, you say, well, it's not Brussels, it's us. Then obviously the EU never gets any credit, and at the same time is blamed when it should not be blamed. So in this way, definitely media are influencing public opinion towards European integration and the EU as such.
I got your point. I also saw from the conclusion of these results, the research. So let's back Visegrad group countries maybe. For our audience, the Visegrad, like the group, the countries, it's all Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, and Czech Republic. It calls also V4. As a Visegrad group member country, Czech Republic, what it could manage to change, like within the group, in order since starting for establishing, what they could manage to change within the group, in order to ensure sustainable, let's say, cooperation or support interrelated each other.
What is important to stress here is that Visegrad Group is not about any integration. It's a regional cooperation project. So mostly we're trying to coordinate our position. When it comes to the EU, we're sometimes trying to coordinate our positions when it comes to summits of European Council or meetings of Council of the EU. At the same time, and we have some, cultural, to a lesser extent, some economic cooperation and so on. and we're trying to promote cooperation in these fields across the 4 countries. But at the same time, I'm a little bit afraid that V4 has been for a long time neglected. And also, in the last couple of years, it has been a little bit hijacked by Viktor Orban's approach, which to a certain extent you don't really want to have much in common, because it's quite illiberal or against the liberal democratic principles. And some of the positions coming from Visegrad have been hijacked by Hungary and Viktor Orban, especially when you look at migration.
Yeah, they went for the referendum.
And this anti-immigration approach also, is strong in the Czech Republic. It's also strong in Slovakia, to a lesser extent to Poland. But when you move to the European Union level, they see these V4 countries as the troublemakers quite often, because, well, we're very often criticizing some decisions of the EU, let's say about the migration crisis, about the relocation of refugees. This is bad, we don't want any refugees. But we rarely come with any own initiatives. And that's potentially a problem, because you don't really...
So you mean just you have to share your benefits and also your problems, yeah?
I would... That's part of the logic of the solidarity. You mean this European Union has to be based on solidarity. Schengen should be based on solidarity because, well, you have different member states. They are not having borders any longer. And then if refugees should stay in the first countries of entrance, such as Greece and Italy, it would be extremely unfair to Greece and Italy. Because we, Czech Republic, we don't have any external border except for airport. International airports. But otherwise, there's no way how refugees can get in the Czech Republic without crossing other EU member states where they should apply for asylum. So for us, it's a very easy position. We will enjoy benefits of Schengen, no borders, but we will not contribute to the costs, which may be related to hosting refugees. And we 4 countries, during the migration crisis, has clearly showed that they don't have their own solution to the problem. They only know which solutions coming from the EU are bad. And therefore they are seen a little bit as troublemakers. So to a certain extent, I believe that even though for coordination V4 is important, and we should try to coordinate our interests or issues within the V4 where our interests are common, I mean the V4 countries, at the same time, we should not rely on it excessively, because it does not really have a very good sound in Western Europe, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like you are just keeping yourself far from the problem. Yeah, so it seems like that.
Kind of.
Another issue in the V4 countries, all of us nowadays, there are there was the meeting of the V4 country leaders, and one of the key discussion topic was they shared the common concerns about double standards in quality of the food. For example, some brands within this multinational company, I don't know who tested. There is huge quality difference between this Eastern the products and Western products within the same brand. So, in your opinion, what can be the best standing of the governments in this issue, or is it real, or is there any problem like this? Do you think?
Understand the question? Well, I'm not an expert on quality of food in the first place.
No, generally,
I've been following the discussion, and I'm not extremely sure whether there is a difference in quality per SA. Because, well, it's hard to measure quality. We know that the sugar, basically, ingredient added to Coca-Cola or generally cola drinks in Germany and the Czech Republic is different.
Yeah, taste.
But it's not clearly said which one of these is of higher quality. And I'm not really able to judge, because I'm not expert on this.
Of course,
whether
as a consumer,
this one has a higher quality or this one has higher quality. So sometimes I believe there are double standards in terms of ingredients that are being used. but it does not necessarily have to mean that some of the products are of lower quality. In some cases where you have a lower amount of, let's say, of meal within some products, it's obvious that higher amount of meal is of better quality than lower amount of meal. But when it comes to these drinks, I'm not sure that I can so easily judge that this is lower and this is higher quality. So to a certain extent, I don't really think that the problem is so real as it is being painted. At the same time, you have, for example, different manufacturers within same subnational company. You have different manufacturers of the same product in different countries, and quite logically they rely on their technological procedures, and they rely on the technologies they have in their oven factories, and even the technologies may differ. My friend partly works in this business, and they're producing sausages and stuff like these, and if you order sausages from 2 or 3 companies and you want to have the same sausages, they may taste a little differently, because each of the companies have their oven procedures to make up the sausage,
of course.
to create
it's like segmentation in the market. Tastes are different.
And also tastes are different in different countries. So to a certain extent we shall definitely try to control whether the quality of food and products differ.
But government intervention is important or not in this
case? I would say
not
it is.
Intervention like the control maybe.
Well, it's good that the government is trying to put this issue on the agenda. And then we obviously have, well, let's say independent agencies and authorities who are responsible for measuring or controlling the quality of food. So it's definitely good to try to see whether there are differences. And when these differences are differences really in quality, not only in the ingredients that make up the final product. And as I said, well, I believe that if this is a concern for consumers or customers, governments should get involved, at least trying to make the pressure on the companies to explain their procedures.
But with sensitive approach, because it can, affect foreign direct investment to the country.
Also potentially, and at the same time, I don't believe that we shall have one-size-fits-all product approach, because truly tastes are different. And this is not subjective, this is objective. So we cannot say, well, Coca-Cola in all EU member states, there are differences. So it should not be solved like there should be an EU regulation saying that Coca-Cola or cola drinks have to contain this and that in all the member states.
Even leaders invited the representatives from the EU for the summit. I don't know how to say. It was a meeting. I don't know. It was
No, they're trying to, not to the meeting, as far as I know, but they are trying to make some certain pressure via the Commission, and some of the, for example, Czech members of the European Parliament also got involved in this, so they were paying for some of the tests of different products, same products in different countries, which is obviously good, but this should not be solved by legislation, EU-wide legislation or regulation, but really by making formal or informal pressure on the companies to try to disclose how their products differ, to be transparent, really. And still, today, if you will live somewhere close to German borders, you're in a huge advantage. You can just cross the borders and do the shopping in Germany. Or if you live close to Austria, you can just cross the borders and do shopping in Austria. So even single market can, to a certain extent, make pressure on the producers, because if people from bordering regions will be moving and buying stuff in Austria and in Germany, probably the producers will change their approach. So that's what would I say about that.
Thank you very much. My last the question. I will summarize my questions. And behind of this Brexit, and even after, even before, the extension of the expanding of the European Union. And the relations with the Eastern Partnership countries and European Union countries. And after Georgian-Russian, Ukrainian-Russian crisis, the conflict still is going, what do you think, what do European countries think about this integration of Ukraine or Georgia as a member of EU, or even the join to Schengen area? I think recently there is some change in Georgia and European and also maybe in Azerbaijan also in the future.
Well,
so yeah.
Recently you had some conclusions or processes leading towards conclusion of visa-free regimes between Ukraine, but also Georgia, some of the countries of Eastern Partnership. Unfortunately, I believe that the Eastern Partnership today is not the major focus of EU enlargement policy. It clearly is the Western Balkans. And even within Western Balkans, the countries there still have major problems when it comes to turning to liberal democratic regimes in terms of especially rule of law, anti-corruption, and interlinking of politics with organized crime, interlinking of organized crime with work of judiciary, which is connected to rule of law. And I would say that there are even more important problems in the Eastern Partnership countries. So I don't think the membership of, let's say, Ukraine is viable today at present situation. Neither do I think that in a close horizon of time, we will experience or we will see enlargement of the European Union in the direction of Eastern and Eastern Partnership countries,
But some people believe that if you decide on to join to Europe, you have to pay some pain, like the Ukraine or Georgia, I don't know. And also, it was really difficult. I think I was also following this Czech Republic as a government. It was very sensitive to even they show their position in this conflict, like which position they have to stand in this.
Yes, but the problem really is that's let's say two-sided or two-edged sword in a sense. On the one hand, you cannot allow these countries to join the EU when they are not prepared in terms of political regimes, economic stability, and so on. Territorial integrity, you cannot really do that because then it becomes the problem of the whole European Union. Just look at how long it took for Croatia to get there, and this was because of the disputes between Slovenia and Croatia, and the reason was that Slovenia was already in the EU, so they had to approve Croatian membership. So territorial integrity, but also political systems, so the Copenhagen criteria, the democratic regimes, but also economic development of market economies. These are all issues that you have to
reconsider.
You have to consider, and you have to be strong on requiring that the criteria have to be met. On the other hand, the longer it takes for these countries to get closer to the EU, the more the danger is there that Russia will trying to fill the vacuum or the space that is in these countries. So you see now Russia is obviously trying to intervene in different ways, not militarily obviously, but in different ways in Western Balkans countries. Just Montenegro's membership in NATO. Remember, the attempted attack or let's say assassination of certain politicians there. So that's the risk. That on the other hand, you need to tell the countries that there is viable opportunity to get into the EU.
It is your right to decide.
But on the other hand, you have to require the fulfilling of the criteria.
It's a long process.
And the longer it takes for these countries to get closer, even in Balkans or in Eastern Partnership, the lower sometimes is the support of normal people towards getting into the EU, because it takes too long and we are not
persuade them you need this the change.
And this support for, let's say in Western Balkans especially, the support for EU membership was larger 10 years ago than today, because there is this certain disillusionment of people. Of the people who are seeing there is no progress towards the EU. The EU doesn't probably even want us. So they're not really supporting this at the levels as they have supported it in the past. And as I said, within Eastern Partnership countries, this is even more problematic because of that they are even closer to Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, but also Moldova. You can observe these quasi states being created within these countries that are more or less under the control of Russian or under the Russian influence. And I'm afraid this process will be very long, and there is no. I don't really see light at the end of the tunnel for these countries. And at the same time, I'm saying they need to see the light.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will just say, "Okay, we will focus on relationship
You need
with
more
Russia."
options to decide.
I enjoyed to talk with Dr. Jan Kovar. We tried to cover this topic somehow. If you have any feedback or comment, please write down here in order to take into consideration the future. For the next videos, please stay with me. Bye.